Hello. Welcome to Let's Talk Immigration, my little Wednesday live. Um, this Wednesday, I thought I was going to have a really short show because there was a protest in my community that was supposed to happen in like 15 minutes from now. Um, and they canceled it because the rain. There's a lot of rain right now in Southern California, which is good, but also different. Um, So if you have questions, drop them in the comments, and I will get to them. I'll talk a little bit about. Um, Let me see if I can talk about everything. Okay. First, I'll talk about what's going on in the news. That's always fun. What's going on in the immigration news? Um, Thank you for your patience. While we go to the immigration news, top stories. Attorney General Pam Bondi announces a lawsuit against New York over immigration enforcement. Okay, so what this is about is states and cities and communities on the East and West Coast, primarily like New York and California, are not cooperating with ICE in their attempts to break up communities and round up. Who's that? I don't know. Round up undocumented folks for deportation. That reminds me of a story that I don't see it here, but it turns out that the people that they sent to Guantanamo, there's no evidence that they are violent criminals, as they say. And in fact, one of them, it appears that like he got caught up in this because he had an Air Jordan tattoo. And so maybe that's how they've determined who they're sending to Guantanamo Bay, whoever had the most tattoos. A little scary. I've got one. I hope that it doesn't put me in Guantanamo. Crazy times. Okay. Um, so ICE data is laying groundwork for mass deportations. The people that are in my business, immigration, that follow statistics and data that come from the government have noticed that ICE is not releasing data for us to analyze and look at. Instead, they're just making claims that are unsupported, and then they're using these claims to justify what they do. So that's not great. Some religious groups are suing Trump over enforcement policies, probably because Trump wants to go into churches now. Correct. The Trump administration wants to be able to go into churches to make arrests. Lots of protest, okay? Students in LA particularly have been protesting a lot, and that's great. They did a walkout yesterday, and that's definitely not their first one. And then there's people from high up at ICE that have been replaced or something. Okay. So that was what was going on in the news. That's our news in a minute. What's going on with Ready Go lawsuits? So tomorrow we have a hearing. Not tomorrow. Today is Wednesday. On Friday we have a hearing in Tereshiko versus Nome at 10 a.m. in San Diego. You could come watch the hearing, or you could watch it live. I've shared that on my Twitter and Telegram. What that lawsuit is about is how the ICE and Custom Border Patrol are applying a blanket policy that denies access to parole, individualized decisions of parole for not only Russian nationals, but also former Soviet republics where people are coming to the U.S. and they speak Russian. So This was a policy that was going on during the Biden administration. Nobody really understood why for like the last 8 months, something like that. And with my co-counsel, Abadir Bari, we challenged it as unlawful. The first lawsuit's already been dismissed because they gave everybody individualized decisions. This lawsuit, they have not done that yet. And then, so we have a hearing tomorrow on the motion to dismiss and the motion for preliminary injunction. Okay, what else is Radical Law news? There was a lawsuit, Sadigi Moanak, CM216 for the plaintiffs that are watching, that we had in the Central District of California for employment-based visa applicants in administrative processing. Okay, this week we got an order from the judge that granted the government's motion to dismiss and denied our motion for preliminary injunction. All of these plaintiffs, well, they were not only employment-based visa applicants, EB2 NIWs, where they're in the national interest, but they were like in the AI and emerging technology sectors where the U.S. needs immigration. We need them to come here. We need what they have to offer, like really badly. President Biden thought that. President Trump thought that. Well, sort of. Maybe. I don't know what President Trump thinks. Anyway, nevertheless, they're stuck in administrative processing. The judge agreed with us on every single issue except whether or not the length of the delay was reasonable or not when applying the track factors. So track factors is a case. It's based on a case on how judges determine whether or not a delay is unreasonable or not, basically. And that was really unfortunate because we put a lot of work into that case. The plaintiffs had a lot of hope, but we always knew it was going to be a little bit of a struggle because the delays of the plaintiffs in that case were not as long as some delays of plaintiffs in other cases. So that was a setback that we had. We have wins and setbacks. You don't win everything, you know. If you expect your attorney to win every single case, that's not realistic. What on earth do I have going on here? Next Wednesday, I have a status conference. Okay, and then I fly to Baltimore next week, and I'm going to be admitted to the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland, and so will our associate Garrett May. So that's going to be exciting. And the following week, I'm going to work in D.C. a few days, catch up with some friends, meet some colleagues, but we'll still have Let's Talk Immigration. Oh, I see I have a chat here. Okay, so I've talked about what's going on with Ready Go Law. There is a new visa bulletin came out for March. I was aware of that. There's not much good news about it though, but you could go check it out. Let me see here. I have a question. Okay. Considering the executive order concerning max pressure on Tehran, what do you expect to see the visa applicants from Iran who stuck in AP after March 21st? Would like to know your view. Oh, Alex, I am 99% certain on March 21st or after, we will see President Trump exercise his authority under INA Section 212F to issue a entry ban, usually called a travel ban, of certain classes of immigrants and travelers to the U.S. Those certain classes will include nationals of countries, what the State Department likes to call countries of concern, countries that do not share data with the U.S. So guess what? Iran, we already know. Iran's going to be one of those countries. North Korea, probably Russia, maybe Pakistan. We don't know. The Trump administration is a little bit of a wild card, right? But based upon the ban that they did, the first term, the language that they used on January 20th about what they're going to do on March 21st, I think it's pretty imminent that if you're an Iranian national wanting to enter the US after the 21st of March, I don't care if you have a visa or not, you will have another barrier. Now, if you're a US citizen or green card holder, you should be fine. But if you just have a printed visa, they can revoke that visa at any moment, or the visa is not valid to enter the US if there's an entry ban. So, hoping that kind of lets you know what I'm expecting. I'm expecting awful, awful things, right? So if you are a Iranian national or Syrian or Russian or outside the US right now, but you have a visa to enter the US and you want to stay here a while, you probably should get in the country soon, okay? Not wait until to find out that you can't. Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, yes, the visa bulletin was published on yesterday. Um, I'll go ahead and talk about it. That's fine. For those that don't know, the visa bulletin is how the State Department throttles availability of visas for categories where there are only so many visas, right? Like so many allotted. This includes employment based visas, this includes family preference category visas, and it includes diversity visas. So there was a new visa bulletin that came out yesterday, and F2A, I know we have a lot of people in the audience waiting on this F2A category. This is spouses of green card holders. The State Department cannot legally issue a visa to a visa applicant who was petitioned for after January 1st of 2022. Okay. That's not moving. That's not great. I've been asked in Telegram a few times today, why does that not move? And I will explain that the reason that is not moving and why a lot of these family preference categories, all of them, are not moving. Secretary Blinken and under Biden and Pompeo before him and the State Department has made a decision to not prioritize issuance of family preference category visas. There are 226,000 allotted per year. See right here, 226,000. And they need to be broke up in a certain way. And they've decided that they're just not even going to use the 226,000. So a lot of them go to waste. And so that makes the line longer. If they use the 326,000, there would still be a line for all four of these categories, especially F3 and F4, but the line would move faster. The waits would not be as long. So that's something that really frustrates me. I wish that there was a congressional solution, like maybe Congress could come in and increase these country caps. But just if the government would, if the Secretary of State would make an effort to use all the allotted visas like they do with employment and also now diversity, that would be great. We have a pending lawsuit where the judge issued an order to dismiss the case, but then we appealed it to the Ninth Circuit. It's called Gallahamber. And that appeal is fully briefed and pending. That's Reddy Galal is doing that because we feel passionately about this. And also we have a plaintiff family that's willing to make this happen. So we're really into appeals lately. We've got another one we're working on filing in the Ninth Circuit now, and we've got one that we have filed in DC. Both of those are for AP delays that are extensively long. Oh, I have a comment up here. Let me see if I can get to this. Yeah, we can stop talking about the feasibility. Suppose that they put this travel ban on for all Iranian nationals. Then how long will it take to sue the Department of State for exempt category like previous ban? Well, what's the legal theory there? Okay. Under the Supreme Court case Trump versus Hawaii, the previous ban was held lawful. Okay. So if Trump copy pastes that whole ban and the only thing he changes is he does not exempt F and J, I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court's going to still find it lawful. So I don't know if there's a lawsuit there. So sometimes people think that if you're angry, you could go to court. Well, you also need a legal theory. You need to have a way that they're breaking the law. And if he uses one of the reasons Trump very cleverly did not issue a ban on his first day is they're doing their homework now so that when they do issue the ban on March 21st, they have the backup that where they can show, they could say, hey, look, we looked and it turns out these countries don't share information, so we need to do additional vetting. I mean, the additional vetting is all probably fake and doesn't really happen, but that isn't going to stop them from issuing the order and also for courts to uphold the order as lawful. So, how long does it take to sue the government? I don't know that we can sue the government. Just because we're mad doesn't mean we could sue the government. We need a legal theory. Okay, consider a group of applicants filed a mandamus group's lawsuit. Then what steps exactly will happen in the Department of State to process the complaint? Do they assign an attorney from the Department of State to this case? Okay, I don't know if this question is related to the last question. If you're talking about like, let's pretend like there's no travel ban, I can answer the question there. Consider a group of applicants filed a mandamus lawsuit. It happens a lot. We file a group case about once a week. What steps exactly will happen in the Department of State to process the complaint? Okay, the Department of State does not process the complaint. That's not what happens. A lawsuit is before a court. It's an adversarial process. Plaintiffs are on one side. Government defendants are on the other side. And then the judge is in the middle, setting up power. And the judge is the decider on the ultimate merits of the case, okay? So if the government says, hey, we want to dismiss the case, they can file a motion for that, but they don't necessarily get it. The judge is the decider. Judge sits up higher. Okay. So do they assign the attorney from the Department of State to the case? That's a good question. They assign a visa analyst from the Office of Legal Advisor within the Department of State to be the liaison with an attorney that works either for the local U.S. attorney office in the district where the lawsuit is filed, or with an oil trial attorney that works for the Department of Justice. So that's the procedure there on where the attorneys come from. A lot of times when I file a lawsuit, the plaintiffs will come to me and say, well, have you talked to the government attorney? Have you talked them into being like I can charm them into making the visas be issued? And you got to realize that they're one step away from the decision maker. The legal strategy is not typically determined by the government attorney that I'm dealing with. It's determined by their visa analyst liaison or someone at the Office of Legal Advisor at the State Department, their client. Okay. Okay, do you believe that even check our cases to see if everything is correct with our cases? Well, we know from a Carson Wu declaration from April of last year that that's the first thing they do when we file a lawsuit. They check the applications for all the plaintiffs to make sure those cases are being processed correctly. If you're saying, will that change under Trump? It could. It could. Okay. Good questions, Alex. If you have more, I like your questions, so keep them coming. I guess I could go back to the visa bulletin. I don't like talking about the visa bulletin. I think it's depressing. Let's talk about the DV section of the visa bulletin. How about that? If you scroll down at the bottom, DV section, there's always two. There's one for the next month, the month of March, and then they go ahead and give you a sneak peek of what's going to happen in April. So from these visas are available for case numbers below these numbers for interviews in March. But if your case number is higher, you have to wait till April. And then for April, it's case numbers that are under these numbers. And then there's some carve outs for some special countries. So, for instance, if you have a case number of 6,000 and you are from Iran, your number's 2025 AS 6,000, you are not eligible for a visa in April. You need for a diversity visa, you'll need to wait until May. And the reason is the cap may be 6,000 for Asia, but over here there's a carve out that says 5,950 for Iran. Okay. Um, that's all that I really want to talk about on the visa bulletin today. So I don't see any more questions here, and I have a billion things to do. I've got like 50 emails I haven't got to today, and voicemails, and behind 60 Telegram messages. So I'm going to let y'all go. If you have a question that comes up, let me know. I hope everybody has a great week, and take care of yourself. Take care of each other.